welcome to QI, where tonight we're on lethal form. Let's meet the death-defying Sandy Toksvig. The death-denying Jason Manford. The death-dealing Bill Bailey. And the drop-dead gorgeous Alan Davis. At least 1 out of 100 has to be complimentary.
That's very kind.
Yeah. Now slay me with your buzzers. Sandy goes. Jason goes. Wow.
Wow.
Bill goes. Alan goes.
Bang, bang, you're dead!
Very good. So, before we start, I have to remind you we have in this series a spend a penny round because of L. Exactly. Because L stands for lavatory. One of the answers will involve lavatories in one form or another. All things lavatorial. So if you do spot a lavatory lurking anywhere, play your joker, and if you're right, I'll give you some points. What could be fairer than that? Now, I'm going to hand out some bags. Can you take one and give one to Jason? Sandy, there.
You?
And you've got yours, I think, already, haven't you? Now, you should have a bottle with a cork in it, and I want you using the bag and the bottle to get the cork out of the bottle. You can't break the bottle, obviously.
Are these are the ones we use when we go dog walking?
Yes, they are. They're poop scooper ones. Exactly.
Are they?
Yeah, but they haven't been used, I promise you.
Obviously, yeah. I was going to use the...
The people near me have started... Does this happen near anyone else? They pick it up, put it in the bag, and then hang it on the tree. Does that happen anywhere else? Leave it hanging on a tree.
Christmas decoration.
You know,
It's like a really shit Christmas tree, literally.
Yeah.
I think that's a Salford thing, Jason.
Wait.
Sandy's looking promising. That's definitely the right idea, is to blow down the bag, but try, I think you need a little bit more down the bottle. More,
right.
as much of it as you can get. You might use your pen to push, as long as you don't tear the bag.
Oh, it's exciting. I don't know what I'm doing.
No.
All right, that's my catchphrase.
I'm just copying what Sandy's doing.
Sandy. Oh, Sandy, yeah. Line it up. If you can line it up, it's going to go, I think. If you can, it's so close. Oh. Look, we'll show you. One of our researchers, Zara, she managed to do it, and we shot her doing it, so have a look.
Shot her.
Watch. There she goes.
If you succeed, we will have to shoot you.
There she goes. And she's just blown up it. A little bit. There he goes. There. Well done, Zara. Now. Oh, nearly.
Oh, nearly.
You didn't blow enough to provide enough suction. That's the key.
Oh, you have
Get
Set
the
down
bag.
the bag. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Blow the bag.
Blow the bag. We used to blow the
Get
bag.
it out. We'll get it out, Mr. Mannering. We'll blow the bag. Don't worry, Mr. Mannering.
Stephen, it's there.
You've got it.
Don't panic. We'll blow the bag, sir.
See if you can pull.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. We don't want to stretch the... I think it's there. You've got it.
Yes!
Brilliant. No, you haven't got the pressure there. OK, pop and water. Very much one way to do it.
It can't be done.
No. But what's really interesting about this is how will this save possibly millions of lives, this trick?
It's not to do with the stent thing, is it? Is it when they blow up a little balloon?
No, it's not. It's
People getting corks trapped.
It's not really going to save that many lives. It might save a lot of distress to people who want the cork out of a bottle, but it's not really.
Is it inside the penis? Can we just clear that up?
No, it isn't.
Is it up the bum hole?
No. In the ear.
In the ear hole?
People sticking corks in their ear.
No.
Is it a common condition?
It is, in the third world especially, a very common condition, and one that causes millions of deaths a year. And that's childbirth fatalities, because of breech births and being stuck and so on. And it took an Argentinian mechanic who saw a video clip of the trick. His name was Jorge Odon, and he thought, that
His
would be
name
really
was
good.
Corke.
No, it was Corky.
Corky, nice name,
George in Spanish.
Yeah, okay,
I like
sorry,
that. His name was Corky. Corky O'Don. And he thought that would work on babies. There's already a sucker is used.
Yes, but I just want to be clear. So you're having trouble giving birth, and a mechanic comes along with a plastic bag, pushes it in, and then goes, "I'm just going to blow." That's pretty much...
Don't worry, I've seen a video.
It's exactly what happened.
And the obstetrician he showed it to thought that he was on some hidden camera show and that it was a trick and that he was going to be made an idiot of. But he realised that it was a fantastic idea. Because before then, do you know the device that is used to try and pull babies out?
Or the forceps.
Well, the forceps is the really old one,
It's
but
like
the
a
more
plunger.
common one now is the one on the right.
It's a sort of a sucker thing.
It is a
isn't
sucker, but it has a particular name. Ventouse. What's the other one being shouted?
Kiwi.
You call it a kiwi?
Yeah.
Oh.
Student midwife.
Oh, really? Well, then we bow to your superior
Yes.
knowledge. Midwifery is a good thing. Midwifery, it sounds a bit like a sort of not very noxious fart, doesn't it? Midwifery. Jolly.
Can I just say, Stephen, you were up until then being so sensitive.
Yeah,
Your job sounds like a fart.
O'Don's method inserts a plastic bag, just as you said, into the birth canal, under the baby's chin. Air is then pumped in, inflating the bag gently around the baby's head. No danger of suffocation. Why is that?
Because they're not breathing yet.
Because babies don't breathe in the womb, exactly.
Yes.
The baby is then safely pulled out without the damage of bleeding forceps, and we can see that. Not in real life, I mean.
All right, yeah.
There you go, and that's
There we
the
go.
suction power is on a little calibrated thing, you see. And you, again, take it away, and it's exactly the same principle. Thank you. I think you've rather misunderstood the role of audience intervention.
Well, you know, the way that the device goes around the baby is very, very similar to the way the chameleon gets its prey.
Its prey, yes.
Because the tongue is actually, it subsumes the prey and goes around it, and then perhaps you could train a chameleon.
To give
Just hold one up to the periphery area.
I feel sorry for this woman who's already said no to the engineer, then Bill Bailey turns up. What about the chameleon?
Well, she might not be able to see the chameleon if he's been hanging around
That's
for a
true,
while.
yes. Well, that would take the stress out of it. It just looks like your arm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what's this? It's just a patterned shirt.
Yeah, it's fine.
And then it runs up a tree with it.
Yeah.
It's raised as a chameleon.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Everything you said about this, you know, why a mechanic... As Dr. Merialdi of the World Health Organization said, with 5.6 million babies a year dying, he said, for many years, almost centuries, nothing has advanced in medical science in terms of the delivery of babies, which is a natural process. But it is also a mechanical process. So perhaps it's not surprising that it's a mechanic who saw a way through to easing it. And
I love it because it's so simple.
it is so simple. Yeah. It's kind of palm smacking, isn't it? A lot of doctors and obstetricians would have thought, wow. One of the great advantages, of course, is that throughout the Third World, midwives and nurses can use it without the presence of a doctor. It's incredibly simple to learn the
cheap
technique
as well.
and very, very cheap, as long as you sterilise everything, obviously, which you would anyway. So, good news.
Well done,
that trick.
Corky.
A car mechanic there, yes, from Argentina, will save millions of lives with the cork in the bottle trick. Suggests some lethal uses for a laptop.
Oh, some
Smart
lethal.
bombs, guiding smart bombs.
Yeah.
Hitting people over the head.
Damn it, Chloe. Yeah.
That was like he was in the room.
Well, just happened to have been working with him, that's all. Please.
Is he nice? Please tell me he's nice.
He's an incredibly nice guy. He really is. Everyone adores him on the set. Kiefer, this is. Kiefer. Yeah.
Kiefer?
Kiefer.
Kiefer, yeah.
Oh, Kiefer. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Anyway, he's always on laptops.
I don't know what you're talking
My
about.
favourite when he talks
Oh,
about
24. Oh.
when he talks about parabolics. That was where are the parabolics? I'm like, have you seen parabolics? That's what it sounds like. Parabolics.
Is it still going now, 24? Then?
Yes. I mean, I played the British Prime Minister.
What kind of Prime Minister were you?
Well, it was
Sage.
non-specified in terms of party.
But were you very
like
sage?
Almost every Prime Minister we've had for the last 20
Is it really over the top London though? Is it like, Chloe, I forgot my Oyster card?
It is all shot
I'm
in
at
London.
Spinningfields.
There are engineering works. I'm on a bus replacement service. Follow me on the satellite. The driver hasn't got a clue where he's going. What's the best way from Kensal Rise to Ladbroke Grove? You can't use the Harrow Road.
I've forgotten what the question was.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, lethal uses for
All right,
a
so hitting
laptop.
people over the head.
You can leave it on the rear parcel shelf of a car, and you stop too quickly. Then,
Yeah.
You know. I know this because I went to one of those, speed awareness courses, and this is ex-copper, and he went, yeah, he goes, he was trying to scare everyone, and he went, yeah, he goes, this lady driver had a laptop computer on the back.
Mel Smith was in
It was. He talked like that. He had a laptop computer
It's very Mel
on
Smith.
the back shelf, and she stopped too quickly, took her head clean off. Took her head clean off, like a knife through butter. And there was a dear old lady next to me who'd been caught doing 31 miles an hour in a built-up area.
A tiny little scooter thing.
On a moped.
You'll have to go to a work.
Yeah, she went this way, and she grabbed my hand and went, oh, my God! Like that. And, of course, I can't imagine it.
No, actually, we're in Australia, and it's a program that's written on a computer.
virus.
It's nothing to do with the Wi-Fi, is it? Is that... Do they
No,
not?
no, it's a specific program written by a specific person in order to help someone do something that will end their lives.
Is it some euthanasia?
It's a euthanasia program, yes. There's an Australian doctor called Dr. Death, obviously, as they always are, and he's rigged up this injection system to a laptop, and you have to answer 3 questions. You have to be sane and smart enough to answer the 3 questions, yes, positively.
Do you know what they are?
Yes, I have them for you.
OK.
1. Are you aware that if you go ahead to the last screen and press the yes button, you will be given a lethal dose of medications and die?
So they're not difficult questions.
Also,
I thought it was going to be things like...
They are.
you know,
I
What
scroll
year
through...
was the
I
Battle
scroll-
of Cressy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I scroll through a lot of these and just press accept. Yeah. Terms and conditions. I've read them.
Terms and conditions. Terms and conditions. The second one is, are you certain you understand that if you proceed and press the yes button on the next screen, that you will die?
That's just very clear.
Yeah.
So you press
Then
yes
does it say-
again. Yes,
Are
on
you
the
sure?
third screen.
You sure? Come on now.
In 15 seconds,
Have you seen the word
you
die?
will be given a lethal injection. Press yes to proceed. It's that simple.
That's heavy, man.
Yeah.
And where'd you get it? Amazon?
No. But
I mean, I suppose it's that if you made the decision, then it's finding the. I found a very odd. I didn't know this was a rule recently. I always get headaches when I'm on tour, so I thought, well, I may as well just stock up on paracetamol because I go for a couple of nights. So I tried to buy about 48 packets of paracetamol.
No.
There they are.
That'll kill you.
Well, yeah, obviously I wasn't going to take them all at once, but obviously there's a
They
rule.
don't know that.
You're only allowed to. But I just thought to myself, that's saving no one, is it? No one's got to that point and gone, oh, can I not? Oh, I'll stay alive then. Thank you very much.
I go into a newsagent's and order a bottle of vodka and they give me a quarter one now. There's things about me.
Although there was a moment when the woman embarrassed me in front of a queue of people where she said, I can't sell you that many paracetamol. And I went, oh, why? Why is that? She said, it's in case you kill yourself. She said those words to me. And this was my panic. I went, what? But there's a load of freezer stuff in there. Like, that was my actual... That was the logic, Keep it trolley there, there's some long life milk. Why am I going? Why would I go?
Do you think come back? Do you think I'd waste that?
There's some Findus crispy pancakes I'm looking forward to.
There's a Solero in there. I've got so much to live for.
You want to look into that headaches thing, it'll be caffeine related, I expect.
You want to flush your system?
I'll do that.
With vodka?
Yeah.
I have to say, the only time I've had morphine was in Copenhagen. I had kidney stones and they gave me morphine.
I should think they would. It's the most painful thing for
And
us,
my
isn't it?
partner said it was so embarrassing because I was just lying there going, I'm filled with honey.
we had Jeremy Clarkson on, and he was talking about kidney stones, said the most painful thing a human being could have. And someone said, childbirth, I think you'll find. And he said, do we have anyone in the audience who's given birth to a child and had kidney stones? And there was one person. Of course there is. And he said, which was the most painful? And she said, kidney stones.
Did they zap them with something sonic or something?
They do now.
Eyes off my head, I've no idea what they did.
Yeah. I think they do. They dissolve them and then you pee them out.
I think what you don't want is someone giving it... Come here, come here. Bend over.
Just get this chameleon, just line up your entrance.
Well, what about suicide booths? Where do they exist? Have you ever seen or heard of them? Soylent Green, a Harry Harrison novel that was a great movie. There are suicide booths there, used by Matt Groening in Futurama, rather wonderfully.
So would you just pop in and kill yourself?
Yeah, there are 3 modes of death in Futurama: quick and painless, slow and horrible, and clumsy bludgeoning.
So when you just put a, 50p in or something.
That's the idea in science fiction, that people will want to do that. Yeah, euthanasia becomes not just a right, but a sort of
bit of a laugh.
Fuck it,
Yeah.
I like a photo booth, though.
Yes. They've got that retro, Instagram type thing,
We've sort of gone revert because the photo is getting so perfect. We've now gone to a point where we're going, let's get Instagram and make it a bit worse. I'm going to do an app where you just put like your dad's thumb in the top corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember this?
They used to say if you look like your passport photograph, you're probably not well enough to travel.
It's a very good theory, I like that.
The very first job I ever applied for on television, it said you had to send in your CV and your photograph. And traditionally in show business, it's a sort of an 8x10, it used to be an 8x10, rather glossy thing. Right. I didn't know that. I went to Victoria Station and the stool was stuck down low. So I sent in a photograph of the top part of my head, and they thought it was a joke, so I got the job.
Wow. Well, there was an actor's director, which is no longer used, but called Spotlight, in which you had to give your photograph. And I remember Barry Humphries had a wonderful one with just a picture of him like that. Not as Dame Edna, but it just said, leather and denim rolls preferred.
I used to try and sort of put things in to see if they'd print them, just sort of sheer devilment, like things like can hover, It's magnetic, I'm OK round chickens, But they never printed them. They just probably just silly man.
Yeah. We'll hover on demand.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, this happy little fellow is about to kill himself. How? You recognise that?
It's about to
kill himself.
He is, by doing something which nature impels him to do, which is a suicidal thing to do.
Fling himself off a cliff.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I just... throwing himself off a cliff. I thought, well, why not?
Yeah,
get that one out of the way.
I thought it might be a lemming, and
yes,
anyway, lemmings don't, of course. But
no, they don't. Yes.
No, it's not a lemming. It's in fact not a rodent.
Is it not?
Is it a squirrel? Is it a marsupial?
It is a marsupial, yes. It's a bit of a convergent. How do you do that? It's a marsupial, and it's called an antechinus.
Antechinus? Well, what are the natural things? It's either going to eat something, or it's going to drink something.
What do animals live to do? They live to eat in order to survive long enough to procreate, to pass on their genes.
So is there some naughty sex thing?
It's about to have sex, and that is, for it, suicide. They go on an extraordinary shagging spree. I mean, it is quite unbelievable. I have to give you the details because they're pretty amazing. It's semmelparous, which means it only does it once. And it's about 12 hours on the job with one female before moving on to the next. Doesn't eat or sleep, just keeps going in a testosterone-driven frenzy.
Oh, never mind about him, that poor female.
Well, that's... and the next one, and the next one.
12 hours?
Yeah.
She must be chafed.
To get the necessary energy, the males' bodies strip themselves of all their vital proteins and suppress their immune systems. By the end of the fortnight, they're physiologically exhausted, bald, gangrenous, ravaged by stress and infection, and keel over and die.
Wow.
Russell Brand, take note. It's pretty grim.
That sounds like Henry VIII at the end of his life, doesn't it?
Somewhat. It is, you bet.
Does this happen only once, then?
Yes, semel parus once is like...
So they're
semel is
dead
once.
before the children arrive?
Very much so, and that, some people think, may be the reason.
Just to get out of childcare?
Yeah. Get up there, the thought of it.
Or if you give it a better gloss, it's in order to leave more food for their
Yeah.
children.
So 12 hours and then another 12
Yeah,
hours?
yeah. This lasts for a fortnight, apparently. Yeah.
Wow.
2-week mating season.
There's somebody in the audience remembering a Spanish holiday. Magaluf, 1982. Oh, that was a party.
But they aren't the only marsupials with the suicidal sex drive. There's also marsupial cats, which have a wonderful name. Very good for Scrabble. Quoll.
Quoll?
Q-U-O-L-L.
Oh, yes, quoll.
Very good Scrabble word. There's a little quoll. And
These are all Australian.
the female northerns, yes, are subjected by males to bouts of copulation. Put here, that can last 24 hours with plenty of biting and screeching. They soon get their own back, though. The postcoital male lose weight, become anemic, their scrotums shrink, their fur falls out, and they get infested with lice. Within a week or two, they die like their mousy cousins, martyrs to their genes.
Wow. Horrible.
It's grim, isn't it?
I mean, the thing is, even if
down
that
south.
was in humans, I think most men would go, may as
Worth
well.
it.
Like, I'm here now.
It's worth it.
What a day.
And all the females are sitting around going, don't worry, they'll be gone in a minute.
I presume they don't know it's going to happen to them.
Well, no, they presumably don't. They'd have no sense of the impending.
There's no 3 questions. If you have
Because they
sex,
never knew their father.
you will die. Press
Their
yes. Are you sure you want sex? Yes. Definitely. Oh, yes.
There's a picture of somebody who's had sex.
Their father, unfortunately, isn't there to tell them. By definition.
So they're railroaded into this
just programmed.
self-destructive shagging frenzy.
Programmed. Deeply programmed. Now, if you had to fight a duel, which weapon would you want your opponent to choose? A, hot air balloon, would that please you? B, a billiard ball? C, a sword? Or D, a sausage?
Sausages are fairly non-lethal.
You'd
See,
say
I would
sausage?
think you could get terrible food poisoning
Yeah,
from the
that's what
sausage.
Yeah, but...
Or if you had them in a string of sausages.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd use the hot air balloon as an actual weapon as you land on somebody. I don't know how you...
Well, the rules were that if you challenge someone to a duel, the person you challenge can choose the weapon and the place. So if you choose a balloon,
Would
you're
be in the
choosing...
balloon.
They can choose a gun and a balloon.
Right.
Which is, you can pretty much work out what could therefore happen.
Yeah.
And you would draw straws as to who shoots first. If the distance is, and they're not very good shots, the first one could miss.
It'd be a bit annoying if you'd chosen guns and balloons and then got the short straw.
Yes.
And he got to shoot first, you'd be like, what's the point?
Yes. The balloon is not a small target. Depends how
gonna
far
get
away
the
it
balloon,
was, of course. But, well, we do have history on our side, so we can tell a story about the sausage. There was a scientist, a very eminent scientist, who was rather liberal in his ways, who lived in Prussia, and who was the great leader of Prussia, who basically unified Germany and was what we would call Prime Minister, but he was the Minister-President of Prussia.
Bismarck.
Von Bismarck, exactly. And this German pathologist, who was called Rudolf Virchow, so opposed the mighty armaments program that Bismarck had started that he enraged Bismarck, who challenged him to a duel. So because he got to choose, this doctor, who was the first man to isolate the pathogen behind pork that had gone off, which is called Trichinella spiralis, said, OK, the weapons will be sausages. One of which would be poisonous, toxic, as you say, with this agent, this pathogen. So he challenged him to a breakfast, essentially. And Bismarck didn't like the idea, so called the whole thing off, which the challenger has the right to do.
So it's a sausage roulette.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Sausage roulette. Yeah, but with only 2. And so you had a 50-50 chance of dying, so that's a pretty dangerous duel. Sausage duel. So, moving from the sausage to the balloon, the Monsieur Grandpré and Monsieur de Pique. We're going to get quite French because you know what they're like. In 1808, there was a dispute between these two over the affections of a young woman. They took to the skies in separate hot air balloons, each armed with a blunderbuss. De Pique shot first and missed. He had the first shot and he missed.
There's a moment, isn't it?
Grandpré then fired at de Pique's balloon and punctured it, sending him and his second down to their deaths.
Wow.
2,000 feet above Paris. So balloon, pretty damn dangerous.
Very first female air passenger ever was in a hot air balloon. Elizabeth Tibble, she was an opera singer. She was dressed as Minerva and sang arias from opera as she fed the fire, and the balloon took off. But unfortunately, she landed and sprained her ankle.
But she was British.
Yeah, it's great. She's the very first female air passenger.
So there's only one example of a billiard ball duel that we've been able to discover. That took place between a Monsieur L'Enfant and a Monsieur Melfant. They fell out over a game of billiards, not surprisingly, and so they used what was to hand, billiard balls. Presumably it was carom if they were French. And they decided to resolve their difference by pelting each other, one after the other, with billiard balls. Again, they drew straws to see who would throw first. And Melfant won, and he warned his opponent he would kill him with a one single strike, and he did. Straight between the eyes,
Wow.
dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
That's...
And he probably went, I was joking. I didn't think I'd actually hit you. Why did they use the cue? That would have been...
Yeah. So, of all the weapons we've described, probably the safest is the sword, because in duelling, all you have to do is get the draw first blood, as the phrase is. So you literally have to pink someone, just give them a little scratch, and it's called off by the seconds. Well, we got him. So, there we are, duelling. Now, why would you resupply your enemies with bullets when they'd run out of them? Just how crazy is that?
Silly,
or indeed a plastic spoon.
Unless they were...
Keep it fair.
Fake
No,
bullets.
real bullets.
Real bullets?
There's your enemy, you desperately want to defeat them, they're running out of ammunition, and you resupply them.
Are they bullets which explode when
Sabotage?
Are
No.
they somehow sabotaged?
Somebody else come to attack us. And
They're good bullets. No, you make a deal with it. It's fair.
Tremendous sense of honour.
Fair play.
It's something so wonderful, I think, that should guide the British government in its policy on a particular issue, one that's very dear to me and the nation, who have this marvellous building that I've had trouble pronouncing sometimes. It's in the Acropolis.
Yes.
It's where the Parthenon is. Yes, yeah. And it's the Parthenon we're discussing. So Greece, let's go back almost 200 years.
Right.
Who ran Greece 200 years ago?
Turks,
the Ottoman Empire. And there was a big movement to free Greece, led by Greeks, but also by some Britons, notably Lord Byron, who died there. And by 1820, they'd got quite a grip on the colonialists, and they'd pushed them all back up the Acropolis. And there they were, in the Parthenon, that wonderful building. And the Turks were firing, and they ran out of shot. Now, the original builders of the Acropolis were extraordinary architects. And they joined together these 70,000 pieces of marble in a magnificent way. They put in sheets of lead to protect it and the bits of iron staple and lead to keep connecting together the marble. But then, in 1820, when the Ottomans were defending it, they started to use these lead sheets to melt them down to make shot. And the Greeks said, we're not going to have that happen to the Parthenon.
So you give them bullets to stop them
They gave them
doing
bullets to stop them destroying the building they loved so much, that meant Athens to them. And if that story doesn't make the British government get off its arse and give back the Elgin marbles, I don't know what will.
If we do that, do we have to give back everything else
No,
as well?
no.
Because we've got lots of stuff, haven't we?
No, that's the slippery slope fallacy. It's the first fallacy of logic, and it just doesn't play. Anyway, yes, that's basically it. I didn't give you much of a chance to come in on that, did I? But it's a good story. I thought it was worth telling.
It when you're passionate on a subject.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
But isn't it a wonderful story about human beings, that even in the face of death, that we revere beauty and great art?
Completely.
More than ourselves. I think that's marvellous.
It is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I agree. Right, now, let's go to real beauty and real splendour. Why was a pint of best in 19th century Norfolk? Just what the doctor ordered.
Oh. Has it got something medicinal in it?
Sure has. Poppies. Obviously. Not heroin. Heroin wasn't discovered.
I'll give you heroin beer, please.
Not heroin, but
no wonder
opium.
Norfolk is kept to itself.
Yeah. Heroin needs a little bit more chemical skill than they were able to show in
more
Finland.
Breaking Bad.
Yes, basically. And they'd been having this stuff for ages and ages and ages. And then, in the 19th century, laudanum became very popular. Laudanum is a tincture of a small amount of opium with alcohol. Queen Victoria loved it. Yeah. And they loved it in Fens. And they had it with beer. So they'd have poppy stuff in their beer. There was a period called the Great Binge, and it was really from sort of 1880s to the outbreak of the First World War and the banning of absinthe in France.
What a time to be alive.
Yes. As I say, Queen Victoria was addicted to laudanum. She'd have laudanum
To be
every
wealthy and idle in the great bins.
Yes. It was something.
They're talking about Weatherspoons right now, aren't they?
In our time, you could get kaolin and morphine perfectly.
Yes, supposedly to cure diarrhoea. And you could also buy in Boots, you could buy liquid aniseed, and you may say, what's the point of that? It's a fabulous trick. You know catnip for cats, obviously.
Yes.
Everyone knows how cats behave when you have catnip. Dogs behave like that to liquid aniseed. So you'd sprinkle it on your trouser legs. And these, you'd see little old ladies being pulled along the street. Fly after your trousers. It's quite extraordinary. While you were completely off your head on kaolin and morphine.
Oh, those are the days.
Good times, man. Good times.
Was this a private education you were receiving?
Yes. And I don't recommend it. Anyway, in Finland, they drank a lot of beer with their own poppies in it. Basically, Norfolk and Lincolnshire consumed over 5.5 tonnes a year, which was basically more than the whole country put together. Yeah.
It hindered the development of the region.
It might have done. It was known as stuff or best. And, yeah, basically, it did
Got any
destroy.
stuff?
Yes. In the 19th century, being an opium addict was normal for Norfolk. Nowadays, we're told that even sugar is a deadly poison. But are sugar-free sweets good for you?
They give you the runs. Honestly, if you are at all stuffed up, 2 sugar-free sweets, you'll be singing. I don't know why.
Well, I ought to warn you that you have missed your spend a penny chance. That was it. Because it's all about... It's too late now.
Oh, yes.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's lycosin, which can have a mildly or moderately laxative effect. That's if you take a few of them. On the Amazon page where they sell sugar-free Haribo gummy bears, it clearly warns may cause stomach discomfort and or a laxative effect. The same page has over 250 comments. Stomach discomfort turns out to be a massive understatement.
Oh, yes.
Gastrointestinal Armageddon. Calamitous flatulence. Trumpets calling the demons back from hell. That's the noise, exactly.
I'm just adding some noises to the story.
Guttural pronouncement so loud it threatened to drown out my own voice. And flammable liquid napalm extruding. Those are some of the milder comments.
I've never known anything like it. I got some butterscotch sweets, and honestly, I had 2. And that was... I thought it was a good way to help me lose weight, and it did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I once tried to figure out how many gummy bears you could put into a remote control helicopter before you would
too heavy.
Compromise its airborne stability. Because you know there's little tiny ones.
Yeah. Oh, the little, really miniature ones.
Tiny little miniature helicopters that can hover in them. I put one gummy bear in it as the pilot.
Yeah.
And it crashed immediately. One.
That's so a delicate aerodynamic
it's a very
setup.
Delicate aerodynamic. Wow. Yeah. One. I put him in the pilot seat really, and it went over like that. Whereas I should have put one on each rail, and it would have been fun. I know that now. No.
But thanks for passing it on.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Good. And now for the lethal concoction of toxic misapprehension and venomous disinformation that we call general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, if you please.
Right.
Name a non-venomous snake. Yes.
The grass snake.
Oh, what? We thought you might say that.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Somebody's very quick on the timing, otherwise.
All venomous, but just not very?
Yes. All snakes are venomous. Recent discovery by a man you know you can trust because of his name. He's called Professor Brian Fry. University of Queensland. And in 2013, he showed that even snakes that kill by constriction have venom in them, and it's been repurposed to create a sort of lubricant to help swallow the huge things that constrictors swallow. Wow. But it still contains small quantities of venom. Fry comments, I find that very odd saying that. Their toxins are the equivalent of a kiwi's wing or the sightless eyes of a blind cavefish, defunct remnants of a functional past. And he showed that the world's largest lizard, which is...
Komodo dragon?
The Komodo dragon, yes, kills its prey with venom, which we all thought beforehand that it was killed with sort of bacteria, that it just basically bit it and it had such disgusting slobber that the thing caught infections.
Yeah, but they actually envenomate.
It seems so, yeah. The small fangs at the rear of a grass snake's mouth do actually spit out at you, and it'll hiss and they'll strike, and you will get a small itchy infection, envenomation, as you say.
Right.
So there you are. That's weird and surprising. There are no non-venomous snakes. They all have venom glands. How fast was the fastest mass extinction? How many years? I'll give you. Yeah.
The Liberal Democrats.
So about 2 weeks, then.
2 weeks. Yeah. UKIP like Top Gear for people who don't like cars.
Very good.
Of thousands? Are we talking about thousands?
Thousands, yeah.
Thousands, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's talking about thousands. It happened 252 million years ago, ending the Permian period. It's known as the Great Dying. It sounds rather Star Trek, doesn't it? Oh. The Great Dying.
So what, sort of 5,000 years?
60,000 years. 3,000 years.
But there have been about 3 of these mass extinctions?
5? Well, yeah, supposedly we're in the 6th. We're in one at the moment. I mean, forget global warming just simply by the way we're destroying habitats.
Eating them or running them over.
Yeah. Or simply just competing for space and not giving them, you know, monocultures, biodiversity.
Yeah. It's a staggering number a day, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge number a day. It's horrifying. And,
Yeah.
Now, Alan, would you take a bullet for me?
Yes, Steve.
Oh, thank you. Very good. Oh.
Sorry, no,
No, you wouldn't. Because you couldn't. I mean, that's to say, in the standard way, it's done. The diving in front of someone, you can't take a bullet for someone.
Well, you'd have to anticipate, I
You'd
presume.
have to anticipate in such an incredible way.
Accidental, you know, act of-
Accidentally, it would. Because, of course, a bullet goes at 1,000 feet per second. That's from a handgun. 700 miles per hour, that is.
Did you know, I read this, you might like this because you like cricket, they've stopped using bowling machines because they've discovered that it doesn't help you at all, that the people who are very good at batting have worked it out before the ball's released by the shape and the angle of the arm of the bowler. Their anticipation is that much quicker, so it's actually of no use to you to practice with a machine. You must practice with people.
With a human,
So you train
see the arm.
seeing the person coming at you over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So the notion that the Secret Service are going to throw themselves in front of the President is just silly.
Well, it has happened. It happened in the case of John Hinckley, who had a pop at Ronald Reagan in 1981. Oh, that's it, exactly.
This is how I would do it. I wouldn't use my head.
No, very sensible.
I'd use my arm.
Your arse.
My leather. I would use that.
I would use Bill.
I'll get it out for you, Alan.
Here's a
Hold that bag, I'm taking it home with me.
Why do people fall over when they've been shot?
It's just been shot.
No, is the answer.
Shock.
Because they're dead.
A dead person would fall over, obviously, where they've been shot in any way.
Not the speed, like the speed and the
impact.
fact that
No, none of those things will knock you over. No. Yeah, well,
Unbelievable.
the impact.
The impact.
What a bad.
It's
I banged
amusing.
my head on the fireplace the other day and I fell over.
That would do it.
Wait, is this a lavatory question?
No, we already have.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Because they've seen it done in movies.
Really?
So in the Wild West, when they had a shootout, and because they'd never seen a cowboy film, people just carried on standing.
Yeah. Most people, when they're shot, don't know they've been shot.
Right.
We have it on the authority of the FBI Academy Firearms Training Unit that people generally do fall down when shot, but only when they know they have.
Right.
That's the point. Regardless of bullet caliber or where they're hit, people who've been shot don't know it yet. Don't fall over.
Unless you was shot and your leg was shot off. And
If
then
it was shot off, you would naturally... Yeah,
There are
exactly.
circumstances.
There
in
are
which you can fall
circumstances. But books, films and TV have educated us that we are supposed to fall down. That's what we do.
Right.
Now, is it wrong to eat people?
Undergraduate philosophy class.
Yes.
Depends on the circumstances. It would not have been wrong to eat Hitler, I would argue.
I think it's wrong to eat this one.
Yeah.
Unless that's Hitler.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a very good ethical point.
Are you saying there are some circumstances where it would be...
Well, cannibalism is not illegal in Britain.
Is it not?
Murder is. So to kill someone in order to
It
eat
is
them is
frowned
by
upon.
obviously illegal.
Dealt with by magistrate.
It's certainly... I mean, no, if I had to lose a liver... sorry, not a liver, a kidney.
Don't use your liver.
No,
How
I don't
many
lose a
livers
liver. A liver transplant, maybe. I might give my old liver to someone, say, by all means, fried up with some onions if you want to.
Oh, wow.
Well, you can eat placenta, can't you?
The
People
placenta
have-
is commonly
yes,
fried after...
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a special fork that for cannibalism. There's a
yes.
three-pronged fork, and I've always thought if you saw one laid on a table when you've been invited, it probably... Yeah.
So it's technically not illegal to
No.
eat anyone. And so if you were to, you know, at a funeral for you just have a little nibble of
Well,
the
you need the
toe.
permission. You definitely need permission. As with anything.
Why hasn't anyone started, you know, in times of a recession, going, do you know what? I hardly walk anyway. So
Absolutely.
just have the left one.
People in the recession who hardly walk. That's a bad one, isn't it?
That is a really bad recession. In Germany in 2003, you may remember that case, there was a computer technician called Armin Maives
that's right.
who conspired, as you might say, with an engineer called Bernd Brandes to sit down and eat with him. So Armin Maives cut off the penis of Bert Brandt with his permission and sat down to eat it with him. He then stabbed him and froze the corpse to eat later. Brandes gave him explicit permission for the whole scenario. He originally asked Maives to bite off his penis. This proved difficult. Maives had to use a knife. He then tried to eat his own severed penis raw.
Oh, not raw.
Yeah.
Oh.
He found it too chewy. Yeah. Have you had it cooked?
The danger of infection from that.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Oh, this is raw.
Yeah.
Another 5 on the grill.
Yeah. They fried it in salt, pepper, wine and garlic.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a little bit of curry powder
They
on
tasted it and agreed it was overdone, so fed it to the dog. He then killed Brandes, hung up the body on a meat hook and proceeded to eat it over the next 10 months. He was found guilty of a sort of killing on demand, but then he was retried and convicted of murder.
Did he go to prison or to some secure location?
He was locked in a happy eater for the rest of his life.
According to the law, eating people or bits of people is not wrong. Which brings me to the grisly business of the final scores and how interesting they are. Way out. Well, not way out, but slightly last, I'm sorry to say, with -19, is Jason Manford. Trailing clouds of glory in a very respectable third place, would you believe it, Alan Davies? Second, with -8, Bill Bailey. Which can only mean that the winner is our token Dane with +6, Sandy Thompson. And with that, it's a big thank you and good night from Sandy, Jason, Bill, Alan and me. And we leave you with the last words of the poet Richard Savage, who died in 1743. I have something to say to you, sir. No, 'tis gone.
Good night.